Good evening, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Meet the Founders. This evening we have a fantastic double feature featuring Simon and Eric. As you know, they are willing to give everything for a little bit of
Whoa, 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 whoa.
XRP. Maybe not everything. Okay. So
Okay.
Simon, we're gonna go ahead and start with you. And you've been in business for a little bit, correct?
Yeah, 6 years.
6 years, fantastic. So, what was the catalyst for you to begin trading stocks and crypto? And have you traded anything else?
Mostly stocks during 2 years, the past 2 years. And I found out about crypto because of Eric. Was in recently that we started to talk, chatting, and he introduced me to the cryptosphere.
Yeah, excellent, excellent. Then you guys went on to create this community, which we are very appreciative of. Um, were you raised to have a mindset oriented towards additional income, multiple income sources, financial freedom?
Like childhood training.
Correct, yes.
I think I had a or I changed my mindset while or in my beginning about trading. I started in forex, and I totally don't recommend to do that. It's pretty dangerous, but we learn from our mistakes, and I lost like 3K. And in that moment, I realized I needed like a mentor or a community to be guided. And well, I found recently, and that group really gives me a lot of knowledge about the investment world and stocks, options, and several ways to increase our portfolios or wealth in general. So that's pretty much it.
So yeah, we definitely met back in Rizalit, and we have certainly come a long way for sure. What's our three important lessons that you've learned from trading that have helped you in your real life business, day-to-day businesses,
Oh, well, three.
or any?
I think. No. I think three is enough. I'm doing my best here.
Of
Sorry,
course.
not my native language. First of all, have patience. Second might be perseverance, and third, always do or make due diligence about your investment, about where are you investing in, and how strong is it, or is it a bad, is a thought you had, or really had strong fundamentals, technicals, etc.
And I'm glad you bring up fundamentals because there's not much of that in the crypto world, but it's based mostly on market share, market cap, correct?
Yes,
So the
in general, yes.
okay, good. So what is one question that you wish you would have asked when you began trading?
Are you ready for this?
Maybe starting with Forex is a bit much, huh?
Are you sure about that?
Yeah.
No, I think not a question like in concrete, but I would like to have a better perspective about all this investment environment. You know, when you start, it's kind of difficult, confusing. It has a lot of new terms from newbies like me. So, but once time advances, you start to realize some stuff and understanding the investment environment better. And I think experience is like a keyword here. I mean, combine it with patience.
Absolutely, absolutely. Definitely a lot of patience to be learned once we get to him. What is the worst trade and the best trade you have ever made?
Like in stocks or in general?
In stocks or crypto, or if you want to tell us about your forex, that's fine too.
Oh man, SRRK.
Oh,
The worst fucking investment. I mean,
yeah, I remember that.
yeah. Or Big C also.
Yeah, yeah, that was a rough one for a lot of people, but I think SRRK probably had the most hate behind it for a
Oh
very
my god,
long
what a
time.
shit stock and continuously rising day after day. What the fuck was that?
Yeah, that was
Yeah.
pretty odd.
We were all shorting. Shorting.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Oh my god. A lot of blood.
What about the best trade?
Oh, I think it was Pfizer.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Pfizer was a really, really good trade.
That Pfizer was my first stock purchase as being part of Riz. I was actually looking at it the day before he mentioned it, and then he posted that alert, and I got all excited and thought I was God and everything, but that didn't work out. But I made money, but I'm not God. I found that out.
Well, now it's around like $60.
Right? Yeah, I should have held on to it, but that's okay. That's okay. So here's a fun question. If you could have the Black Swan event be anything in particular, what would it be, and how would you capitalize on it?
How do you capitalize on it? I mean, the Black Swan event will be, in my opinion, completely destructive. And that applies to all markets, not just crypto. Will be stocks, will be stocks involved, will be options, I don't know, bank investments, I don't know, real life businesses demolished by it. I think it's mainly inflationary bubble that will increasing cost for everyone. I don't know when it's gonna explode, but it's for me. I have a business, import export company, and the transport fees are insanely high. I mean, like at minimum, like 5x. So if you I don't know contract a 40 feet container that must always have cost like I don't know $3,000. Now it's like I don't know 12, 13.
Gracious.
So that creates a bubble everywhere because I don't know. Here in Chile we have the main food that we had is bread. So now I don't know. The bread always cost like I don't know $1 per kilo, and now it's like $2 per kilo. So you can compare it with another I don't know kind of groceries or I don't know even oil. I mean oil it's insanely high here.
We're starting to see the effects of those inflation issues you're just mentioning everywhere around us, and it's very very upsetting to be in Texas and to see California gas prices. So I mean I don't know what y'all's equivalent would be, but yeah, we're starting to see that as well.
I think they will continue to rise, and there will be shortages. I'm sorry. About several kinds of groceries or daily stuff that we use. The lack of items will be the main event or catalyst for the Black Swan event, in my opinion.
So like a lack of liquidity across all sectors?
Of course, companies, I think, once the CEO of company realized that their costs have increased like, I don't know, 3x, it's insane. I mean, you started in my opinion, you start to sell what you know that can be sold.
Mm.
You don't invest that much. You don't do research. You just try to survive.
You mind if I interject here?
Sure.
So something that I want to add to what Simon is alluding to, and I think we've talked to this to some extent on our VIP chat with the core group. I'm of the opinion that we are poised and getting set up for that Black Swan, that great event. And I think what's going to be the major catalyst would be the velocity of money coming to a halt. Supply chain shocks are going to create scarcity on essential items, which is going to drive hyperinflation, and it's just going to be this domino effect on how every industry, on energy, and every sector, honestly, to be honest with you, I'm of the opinion that is going to take a giant hit, which is really going to result in a catastrophic event where
even services.
Exactly. Because the small businesses, as we see it now, they're not able to keep up with the freight costs, the employee shortages. They're basically competing with the government when the government's pretty much giving out free money, printing money. Lockdowns, quarantines. And the borders, they're holding the container ships, driving the container costs up, and the little guys are getting killed. And that's really the engine of the United States. And if the United States is taking a swing, which we know that at a global level, from a macroeconomic standpoint, I think across the board, we're seeing countries, seeing these effects, and it's like this massive world collapse where, you're justifying an excuse to really take down the old legacy system, and this is all attributed to that.
The world will suddenly stop in other words.
Yeah.
Well, thank you both for your perspectives on that. We're gonna move on. We've got just a couple more questions here for Simon. Simon, so when you're planning your goals, whether they're trading or any business goals, do you plan backwards or forwards? So backwards planning being you plan your big goals and you move back into smaller goals, or forward where you plan smaller goals that lead into your bigger goals.
Come again, please. I didn't get the question.
Okay, so when you're planning your goals, whether it's for business or trading, do you backwards plan or forward plan?
Do you mean like without any research, like just moving forward?
So backwards planning is an example would be I want to be a millionaire, and then you plan backwards from there until today. Forward planning being
like vision. Okay, got it. No, I think I do it in the forward way.
Okay.
So I realize where I am now. I realize how much capital do I have to move, or I can move, and I start investing from there. Of course, I have goals for the future, but I'm going like step by step first, baby steps, like you said, and realizing the environment once I do every step. By now, that strategy has worked for me really well. I can't complain, and also for my company. So,
excellent.
But the other way, you're planning it. It can be. I never thought about it really. It's new to me. Like having a vision and moving backwards, like going down through a ladder. That's new for me, but it's also a good kind of strategy.
Yeah, it's something that they taught us in the military, and so I know that oftentimes military planning and business planning kind of goes hand in hand, so that's why I figured I would ask. What are your core values?
Oh, integrity.
That was the
Always
that
be
was the
an
first thing Gage said as well.
yeah. Always is the most important asset you may have, like a human being, in my opinion. Hello?
Do you have any other core values or like?
Oh yeah, I have. Sorry, I thought it was the only one.
No,
Uh,
give us a couple if you don't mind.
Kindness. Be kind always to people. I don't know. Because you never know how people is spending their day. It's be kind. It's so easy. What else? Trust. Always trust your friends, trust your family, but never be fooled.
Yeah, that is a very wise thing to follow up there with. And then one final question for you. What would you go back and tell your 18-year-old self?
Buy Bitcoin.
Buy Bitcoin. Yeah, that's
Buy
pretty
Bitcoin
smart.
and sell it on 2021.
Yeah, that's a very smart thing to go ahead and go back. How what year was it? I'm not gonna ask you to we'll be able to figure it out. But what year was it when you were 18?
I was studying like astronomy. I was in college at that time.
All right.
What year was that, dude? In the 2005, I would say. No,
Six,
2006.
7, like that. I'm 32.
Yeah, yeah, that's around the same time I am. We're about the same age.
Okay. Right on.
And we love each other.
Very.
Besides, he don't tell him. We love each other.
Right, and that's
Yeah.
that falls under being kind, one of your core values, right?
Yeah.
Excellent. Simon, that is all the questions that I have for you, and so I'm gonna move to Eric and address him going forward. And yeah, all the questions at this point will be redundant, but for clarity's sake, I'm gonna go ahead and ask them all again. Eric, you've uh, along with Simon, we kind of our paths crossed there in Riz Elite a couple years ago, but you were trading well before then, and so what was the catalyst for you to begin trading stocks, and then how did you move into crypto?
Great question. So it may be a surprise to many, but my wife was the one that actually pushed me to start investing. We sold one of the properties that we had in Miami right when I got my promotion to move out to a different state. And we decided, hey, we have some equity. We should put this money to work. And this was my wife thinking. It wasn't really me. I was just, let me put it in a savings account and let's, tuck it away and leave it for future investments. But I was very skeptical, and she's the one that actually recommended Riz and his elite membership and the product offerings that he was giving at the time. And I was very skeptical. I thought it was a scam. I'm like, anything coming out of Instagram, it's got to be a scam. I don't trust it, And she kept on insisting until, finally Riz told her, hey, man, we'll just, give him a trial and give him a discount and let's give it a shot. And, he was very welcoming. And my wife is the one that really nudged me into deploying some capital. And I got started with Riz. I took the master class. I got a little bit of education. I invested in it, and I think that gave me the fundamental understanding on the basics, and it was very good to have, considering that I was new to the market. And once I did that, man, it became a passion. It became part of my I consider it a hobby, part of my life, a lifestyle. To be honest with you.
Yeah, my girlfriend says I have an addiction now, but my addiction's making money, so it's okay.
She might be jealous.
So how did you get started into crypto then?
So I took a lot of swings in the stock market, and what really moved me into the crypto market was my thirst to learn more about the markets and to get more exposed. And I'm gonna put this out there. I was, and this might answer one of the questions later down the road on what one of the potential trades, man, that I missed out a lot on was Tesla. I being that in Rizali we talk about fundamentals, we talk about the sustainability of a company with their PE ratios and their balance sheet and their financials and everything. And I remember owning Tesla, man, and I wanted to have it as a long term, but I took someone else's advice, whether it was a conservative approach or not, and I lost, man, potential to make hundreds of thousands of dollars on a trade because it was leveraged, it was options, it was Tesla related, and I didn't do it. I didn't go with my gut. I went with the experienced recommendation, and then in the community where it was mutual agreement on how much of a shit stock Tesla was and this and that. So that really instilled in me like this thing where it's like, man, I really got to trust my judgment. And I remember that Riz wasn't very crypto centric, and he wasn't too fond of it. And quite frankly, that was my catalyst. That's what, like, man, you know what? My gut told me Tesla. I didn't follow my gut. I'm gonna look into crypto. Why isn't crypto? I kept on going based off of what people said. Crypto is a scam. Crypto is a piece of crap. It doesn't work. It doesn't have fundamentals. And I said, no, I'm going to do my own due diligence. I'm going to trust my gut on this, and I'm going to do my research. Believe it or not, my first purchase was Ethereum. And then that's when I started doing some hardcore gigging, man. Like, I went down this rabbit hole, and it's like, holy shit, what did I just stumble upon? And that's when I found the famous XRP. Exactly. So that I transitioned from stocks because I got bored. I didn't see the return on investment when we were doing swing trades and Rizali. We're talking about doing swing trades on higher values in terms of if we're going to swing trade a stock. I didn't have the portfolio size to see an impact. So I was taking smaller chunk gains and losses, and I wasn't making as much money. They weren't bad calls. I just didn't feel that my portfolio mirrored the style of trading in that particular group. And I saw quickly that crypto was, you didn't need a lot of money for it. And I got a little taste of it, and it really worked out because you can make so much ROI with so little money. And it just gave me a huge perspective on, what potential I have to make, 10x, 15x, 16x, when stock traders are happy because they went up 5, 10, 15%, to me, that's just that's boring,
50% is huge in stocks.
Yeah, now I'm just used to seeing 60, 80 plus or minus. The volatility is what I love, and the asymmetrical gains depending on how you position in your portfolio. But that's how I ended up transitioning. I know it was a long-winded answer, but it kind of tells you more or less. I started without knowing anything about the equities market or trading or anything. Went into stocks, got with a community, learned, and made a couple mistakes along the way, and then I kind of ventured out and did my own research and kind of stumbled on crypto.
Yeah, no, that's exactly what, we're going for long-winded answers here. There's no time limit. I mean, I do have to go to bed at some point, but that's it.
Cool.
So were you raised, you mentioned your wife gave you the nudge, but were you raised to have a mindset towards building additional sources of income or no?
Not at all, man. Not at all. And that's why I think it's very important that people get educated and take additional classes and invest in their intellectual capital, man, because a lot of times we are a mirror of the way we were brought up. My family, they came from Cuba. We really come from a humble, beginning. We never really had much. We fled communism. We started from scratch here in the United States, and we've always been a working class family, where we struggled, man. I remember, I was 10 years old and I was cleaning buildings with my parents. I really had an entrepreneurial spirit because I always, had to save money, work money, hustle money, to really buy myself a gaming console, to buy myself the shoes that I wanted to wear for high school. I could never really lean on my parents because I didn't want to be that burden, and I know that they were struggling. They were doing the best to give me a better life. So with that backdrop, my parents were professionals in their fields. My dad was a pilot, my mom was a psychologist, but that shit didn't mean anything here in the U.S. And English was always a barrier. So I always saw how there was only enough money to pay the bills, and it was a major accomplishment if you owned your own house and you had a car. And I didn't settle for that, and I didn't want to live like that. But I think what really triggered me and motivated me to want to do more and to be a higher, upgraded version of my parents was to step out of the old mentality of, hey, let's have our nest egg, let's aim to just buy a house and be a homeowner, and let's buy a car and let's save money. No, I started using words of affirmation over my life. I started taking a more spiritual approach. I started educating myself in the world of finance, and I started dabbling with a lot of other things. And I saw I didn't want to be living the same life that my parents did, struggling to make ends meet. And I always saw it from a perspective where I needed to challenge myself, not to work for money, but to make money work for me. And to ultimately have that financial freedom to be able to, retire at a young age. And there's nothing more valuable than time. And I think we will never get time back. So, it's very important that we shift our mindset to want to do better. And I think that's something that, kind of propelled me to do more. And I want to say that, meeting my wife was a divine intervention, because she's really the one that kind of pushed me to, hey man, let's do this. She was a little more adventurous, and that's kind of what was my trigger to kind of keep me moving forward. And fortunately, because of that, she's been a stay-at-home mom, and we've been able to benefit from that, and we've never lacked, and we've always had abundance. So everything is possible. It just, your mindset has to change.
And I love these interviews has actually been that the answer to this question is the same. Is no, we were raised, middle class, working family.
Exactly.
Save your 6 months of emergency funds, and yet here we are all in this together with a common goal of financial freedom, and being able to do whatever we want whenever we want, not having to ask for permission to do so. So it really resonates, and I'm so glad that we're doing this, because I think it doesn't take much money. It takes a lot of effort. So
that's right.
Moving
the
into
right attitude.
That's true.
Moving into the next question here, what are 3 important lessons that you've learned from trading that have carried over?
I would say, based on experiences and trial and error, and being in the meat grinder, so to speak, I would say don't overtrade. I've made a lot of mistakes earlier in my trading career by overtrading. I got very confident, very cocky, because when I first started, I took the master class and I had the basic understandings, and then I did a couple swings here and there, and I guess you could call it beginner's luck. And then I started getting a little riskier and friskier, and I would look at the top moving penny stocks early in pre-market trading, and I started playing with that. Man, it got to a point where I made $4,000 or $5,000 2 consecutive months in a row, and I'm like, shit, I think I could quit my job and this is gonna work. But once my confidence level got to a certain level and I started getting cocky, I would just trade just for the hell of it. Like I wouldn't know when to step away from a trade. And I would say that, as a result of that, those gains that I woke up early for on pre-market trading, the tension and the stress with intraday trading and day trading, man, all that hard work in 2 months, I fucked it up on one trade. One trade cleaned me out. And you don't know how discouraging and how bad I felt. And even with that, I'm like, fuck, I need to make this money back. And I kept on digging my hole deeper and deeper because I didn't realize that, hey, Eric, you need to step away, bud. That's it. Move on. You have one bad trade. Close your portfolio, hit the reset button, go back the next day. Right?
Take your time, breathe.
Exactly, because you make mistakes. Which leads me to my next topic, or my next bullet point on the lesson learned is you have to remove emotion. You can't be an emotional trader, because the moment you have emotions tie in, you're going to have what happened to me, where, it was just like, man, this fucking sucks, these fuckers, fuck you, and I'm going to get my money back, you motherfucker, and not only that, and just, man, screw trading, and then 3 hours later, fuck it, I'm going to do it again, I got this, I'm going to throw in another $3,000, and I'm going to YOLO this options trade, just to make it back, and man, those are bad mistakes.
Basically a degenerate.
Yeah. You start picking up bad habits for the wrong reasons. But I would also say, that my third lesson would be, you need to have patience and discipline. And I have to say that XRP has given me and built and instilled that in me and my DNA. Because I've seen, man, I've held XRP through hell and high water. I have seen the portfolio go up 6 figures in a matter of hours and weeks, months, up and down, and being able to stomach the volatility, being able to have conviction in what I hold and what I own, and knowing that I've done my due diligence, I think, gives me the peace of mind to know that I'm in the right asset class, I'm in the right trade because I believe in it. And I trust the research that I've done and the evidence that I have before me to jump to that conclusion. So, I would say that, again, patience. You need to be patient. Like Warren Buffett, in one of his famous quotes, the stock market or the crypto market or the real estate market, any market that you're in, is a device to transfer from the impatient to the patient, and I've been on both sides of the field. I've been on the side of the impatient, where I just trade for the sake of it, and I've lost money, a hell of a lot of money, enough money to not where I couldn't tell my wife, hey, I lost $40,000. Like, how do I tell that to her? You know what I mean? So I needed to find a way to grind all that back, and the way I did it is by being a disciplined, patient trader. Letting the trades come to me, being more strategic, being more decisive when making a decision, having a better risk tolerance, and not overexposing on certain things that I know I'm not too confident in. And thanks to that, man, I've been able to increase my net worth significantly, where I don't have any debt, and I would say my net worth right now isn't the millions, but I'm targeting for that, and I'm confident that I'm going to be there this year. At the time, yeah, too late. Well, it's on the record now.
Yeah.
I can always say you manipulated the voice, and that wasn't me. And
Of course.
Yeah, it could be me.
that's Simon.
So what is one question you wish you had asked when you first started?
I think the one question I would have asked is, how much should I get exposed on swing trades? And I think, like what I alluded to earlier, that I felt like before on the stock trading community that we were in, I didn't have that much capital at the time to really like make an impact on the portfolio. So I was playing very risky. I was throwing 80-90% of my portfolio on one given swing trade in the hopes of, making a good ROI because it just made sense, and I trusted, the swing, the elite trader to kind of, steer me in the right direction when it came to making that swing trade. And, it bit me in the ass a couple times. But if I would have asked, or I would have been a little more vocal at the beginning when I first started, as how much, it probably would have saved me several $1,000s in mistakes, because sometimes, we don't know any better, So I think that would be it.
Proper percentages, small account problems. So you alluded to earlier that Tesla was the worst trade you made, and I'm going to go ahead and assume, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but XRP in and of itself has been the best trade you've ever made.
Yeah, well, I've made a lot of good trades, but I think the epic trade above all has been XRP. I would say my ROI on XRP at the current state that we're in, at the price valuation that we're in, I believe it's like 700% return. But at one point it was like 1,400, 1,500% return. But obviously with the fluctuations in the market, it's expected. But I still consider that my best trade because I can say that I got in when there was a lot of fear, and I really backed up the truck when the lawsuit hit, and I doubled down on my position. And I really leveraged all the bad, catalysts coming out to push the price down to really position myself heavier. Yeah, XRP I would say would be the mama of them all. But I have several ones in the books to include XLM, because XLM was there with XRP in tandem. I think I bought XLM at like 5 cents.
Ooh, nice.
So my average right now is like 7 cents.
There you go. So don't sell your XRP to buy the house. Sell your XLM.
Yeah. Well, we'll see.
A conversation
we'll see
for
how
another
it plays
time.
out. Hopefully, I could use collateralized loans to be able to buy it, so I don't have to pay taxes on. But that's a different topic, different conversation for another day.
Of course. So we already talked about the Black Swan event with Simon. Is there any way though that you could foresee yourself capitalizing in the possibility?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think I'm hedged in a position where I'm kind of counter Black Swan because I'm not really attached to any debt assets. But I would say that I would really capitalize by scooping up undervalued items. Once shit hits the tank, that I think I could scoop up several. I really want to go heavy on real estate.
Mm-hmm.
I think real estate would be really good. And again, this is all speculative because in the current markets that we've seen nowadays, man, nothing really makes sense anymore. And you would think that, what goes up comes down. And it just feels like it's never coming down, even though we've got fire and hell going all around us. We're like punching in new highs every other day. But yeah, I would say I'd really get heavily positioned in real estate because I think that would be a good way to acquire land and get some properties to rent out and get some residual money coming in. And I know crypto is another good hedge, especially with DeFi. I think getting yields and returns during the bear market by staking crypto and playing, in DeFi like we're doing right now with Songbird. By the time Flare comes out, I think, man, we're going to be positioned to really be money-making machines, man. So I would say I think that's the best way to leverage it.
Right on. And we're back to the goals question. When you're planning your goals, do you utilize backwards planning or forwards planning?
I'll give you characteristics on how I would do it or how I do it. I don't know if it's backward or forward, but I basically look at my end game first. So I look at my end game, and my end game is to have time on my side, be financially independent, not work for anybody, and really not have debt. So I've managed to accomplish one of them so far, and I'm kind of taking it down as a bucket list, to kind of just check the mark. So I'm taking a lot of short-term goals and position myself strategically to help me obtain the overall big goal. So I think I would say that would be the long term.
Yeah, it sounds like you're doing some backwards planning. You've got your major goals, and now you're to achieve that. So then we got just two more questions here. What will your first one be?
I would say family, then freedom and accountability. I think a lot of my decision making lately, and given my recent career change and my relocation and everything, has been attributed to trying to position family as one of the most important things. Because I realized over time, being out alone when we were out in Arizona, how much family makes a difference, and having people around you to really spend time with and cherish relationships and have a hand when it's needed was very critical, and not taking that away from my kids. Them growing up alone like I did, they have cousins that they can grow up with and have a better life, have a different life, not just be solitude. And then freedom, man. I think freedom is the ultimate goal, to be able to, focus on having the ability to have that spare time so that we can spend with family, and then having that spare time to do what you enjoy doing. I mean, I would love to be, engaged in the server full time, engaged in trading full time, have my own small office, trading, so those are things that I think are essential, and part of the freedom, not being tied down to having to work, 9 to 5, not being tied down to having to work because you have to pay debt. I think that's above all, man. Having the freedom to, if I want to move to Colombia for the next 3 months, I'll go to Colombia. If I want to go to Europe after that for another 7 months and do what I do abroad from, I want to be able to do that, so I think that's very important. And then accountability, man. Everything that we do, everything that I do, has a consequence, and also has a pro. So, being accountable for the decisions that you make, I think is very important and kind of helps you build character.
Gage kind of mentioned that as well when I asked him what about his 3 lessons, and he said everything has a risk and reward, and that definitely goes along with accountability. So my final and last question is...
Man, I was really looking forward to this question. Don't spend money on strip clubs and prostitutes. No, I'm just kidding. No, I'm just messing with you, man.
Hey, if that is the case, that is the case, and you know what? We can't judge you for it.
Yeah, no. I gotta delete that because then I'm gonna have problems with my wife. So I'm pretty chopped. No, but honestly, man, I kick my ass every day of my life because at the age of, I'll give you. Remember how I told you guys that I always really had to work for me to be able to have things that I like and that I want. I really started working when I was like 14, unofficially. Started selling candy on the street in school, and that gave me a little bit of revenue to be able to buy, my consoles and everything, buy me clothes that I wanted,
Mm-hmm.
Then when I turned 16, I started working as an intern at a bank, and I did banking for 7 years, and that gave me the opportunity to really make more money than my parents at one point, because at the time, working at the bank as an intern and then getting hired on and then doing personal banking and all that, at a young age, it gave me an introduction to the financial side of things. It helped me build a resume, and it also, at a very young age, also contributed to allowing me to make more money, man. But I just recklessly threw away all that money. I bought myself my first car when I was 16, by myself. My parents weren't involved. They didn't even know. And my brother was the one that helped me get it, by the way, because he was over 18. Otherwise I wouldn't have been able to buy it.
Right.
But I threw my money away, man, on clubs, cars, clothes, just all the
We all did, right? At some point in our lives, we all did.
Yeah, man. But I mean, dude, I'm talking about like when I started doing the math, and I looked at my W-2s, and I started looking, man, I really didn't have bills. Like I just had my car payment, I had my house, I had the cell phone, and I started thinking to myself, I'm a fucking dumbass. I spent literally $500,000 in 5 years. And what?
Invested.
And nothing.
Mm-hmm.
And what do I have to show for it? I don't own a house. I don't own a car. Fuck. I'm a piece of shit.
Venture capital had it.
And that really like resonated with me, man. Till this day, I still kick my ass about that. I'm like, man, I would have mind you, this was around 2008, dude. I could have bought a property. I could have owned a house.
Mm-hmm.
And this then I started looking at 2012. I could have bought Bitcoin. It's just, where was I? And I was just so disconnected, and that has to do with poor decision making, and that's why accountability is one of my biggest things, man. Like you live and you learn.
I think that's the main thing we must learn. I don't know, for members that are still young. I mean, we are young, but they're younger. Learn how to spend your money. I mean, look for guidance. Look for investment opportunities always. Don't waste it like we did.
Yeah. And always, try to find a way to properly allocate your money. Make your money work for you. Nowadays, and sometimes I crack jokes, and I tell people, yeah, I'm on on a keto diet or whatever they call it. Just eating rice and beans or whatever, drinking water. Or ramen, that's the thing we use, ramen.
Yeah.
Ramen. But I seriously, man, I think twice before I buy a Snickers bar. I think twice when it comes to discretionary income. I really think about it twice. I don't want to say I'm to the extreme where it's like, man, do I really got to buy this toothpaste? Should I buy the toothpaste? Not that to that point, but what I'm trying to get at is, man, how can you turn those $50 into 150? Is my mentality. How can I position myself in a way where this dollar, this unit, can give me a return, versus spending it. The instant gratification in the short term is not worth the long term freedom.
That's a difficult lesson. Live below your means.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's right.
I whenever I shared that story in the chat about my realization of how much money I had wasted, and still to this day and forever I will say it was a terrible reason, but that story in of itself was actually a very skeleton like, and there's a lot of details that are obviously left out because it was meant for more of like a lesson.
Please don't tell me what's Herbalife.
No. I didn't spend all my money on Herbalife, thankfully. But there were still a lot of specifics that didn't go into that, and it's very true. Whenever you look back and you realize goodness, man, I really blew all that money for no good reason. And then, but oftentimes we don't see it until we start seeing how our money can effectively work for us. And unfortunately, that's the lesson that a lot of us
Exactly.
have learned. If I could, give one, go back to my 18-year-old self and tell myself one thing, it would be that, you're gonna make a lot of mistakes, but use your money wisely, because it'll make those mistakes a lot easier to bear with. There's a, what's that saying? Like, it's a crying in your Lamborghini is a lot cooler than crying in a cardboard box or something along those
In a
lines.
letter.
Yeah. So definitely, I wouldn't go back and trade the experience. I would definitely go back and change the circumstances around those experiences, because those experiences still taught me a lot. But I've mentioned to someone not too long ago that I kind of consider myself a child in this realm of financial independence and financial knowledge and investing, because of the fact that I really had to restart myself and rebuild myself at 25. So thank you, gentlemen, for your time. Thank you for the insights, and it's been great to see the recurring themes of integrity, of building ourselves up from the ground up, overcoming obstacles that weren't intentionally placed in front of us by not. So I greatly benefited from this. I've taken notes, and I hope everybody who watches these in the community and out in the general YouTube world will take some notes as well, and take some advice from our lessons that we've been able to share with everybody here. So, gentlemen, thank you for your time. I really, really appreciate it. This has been so exciting, and it's so fun for me, and I look forward to talking with you all further.
Awesome. Sounds good. Talk to you guys later.